Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Job Breakdown. Today we're taking a look at Monk. Monk is one of those jobs that seems really simple on the surface. I mean, you just punch stuff, right? But it's actually pretty complicated. There's a lot going on with Monk and a lot of ways to play Monk better than the way that I play Monk. But let's break it down. We'll get into those things. First off, of course, you have your stances. It's the most basic thing. Your Oppo stance, going into Raptor stance, going into Quarrel stance. You have different abilities tied to each one. Oppo has Boot Shine, Dragon Quick, and Arm of the Destroyer. Raptor has True Strike, Twin Snakes, and 4-Point Fury. And Quarrel has Demolish, Snap Punch, and Rock Breaker. Because of the change that came to Form Shift, you basically can switch whenever you want, but you should probably be switching using your abilities unless you're just trying to keep up your Grease Lightning stacks. So let's talk about those Grease Lightning stacks. Grease Lightning is your skill speed buff. As long as you have Grease Lightning, you will be moving faster, which means you will be using more abilities in the same amount of time, and so you're going to be doing more damage. It's very simple in the way that that works. However, keeping your stacks has been difficult in the past. It's one of the reasons why I didn't really like playing Monk back in Heavensward. It was very easy to lose your stacks, and it's gotten a lot better. They've given a ton of options to be able to keep your stacks up, and they've given you another stack. We'll talk about that as well when we get into the individual fist buffs and which ones you want to use. What do you use Grease Lightning for, though? We have Grease Lightning as this buff that you can manage and that you want to keep up. What do you use Grease Lightning for? There's also a bunch of other buffs. We'll get into those as well. I'm sure you can see my bar filling up there. You can spend Grease Lightning for Tornado Kick, and then you don't have any more Grease Lightning. So my personal recommendation is don't do that unless the boss is either about to move, about to die, and you have that extra damage coming up, or if you have to burn down a mob quick. Like if there's an ad that is built with an enrage with a boss, you can burn that Tornado Kick to finish that off. But almost always you're going to want to keep your stacks because of the sheer amount of extra weapon skills you'll be able to throw in there and all the extra damage you'll be able to do. So with that in mind, you have your 4 buffs there, or your 4 Grease Lightning stacks. What do your individual abilities do? Boot Shine is great. That's a guaranteed critical if dealt from the rear, so you want to chain that in with True North when you are soloing, so that you get that guaranteed crit. Very, very nice when you can do that. Then you have True Strike, which is just damage. Also from the rear, positionals are important to monks, and so you have your 2 different combo chains, both of which have different positionals to them. And then Demolish, which gives a damage over time debuff to the enemy. That's your basic combo. That's your rear combo. That is going to be your bread and butter for your leveling. But once you've gotten higher in level, you'll want to start adding in your second combo, which is Dragon Kick into Twin Snakes into Snap Punch. Dragon Kick gives the Leaden bonus. Leaden, right here, Leaden Fist, makes it where your next Boot Shine does extra damage, which is very nice because it doubles the damage of your Boot Shine. And for a basic combo, it's very nice to get double damage. Then you have Twin Snakes, which gives you another buff, which increases your damage. And you have Snap Punch, which, along with all your other Quarrel abilities, resets your timer on your Grease Lightning so that it doesn't fall off. If you decide that you want to focus on your first 2 combo moves and not manage your Grease Lightning by using a Quarrel move, then you'll see what happens in 2 seconds here. You lose all your stacks. You don't just lose 1 stack and go back down to 3. You lose all of them. So you don't want to do that. You always want to either mix in a Quarrel move, or for some reason, if you don't want to use Demolish or Snap Punch, you want to mix in a Form Shift so you can reset the timer reduction on that Grease Lightning. And there's a bunch of other avenues to be able to get your Grease Lightning back as well. We'll get into all those. But these are your 2 main combos. This is your bread and butter for single target, and you're going to want to keep using these. Almost always, I will do this. Move to what would be the flank. Get a Twin Snakes instead to be able to get that damage buff up. And then I will repeat that backwards. And then once I have the buffs up, then I will just start doing a basic combo. Because your True Strike is going to do more damage than your Twin Snakes, but you need Twin Snakes for your buff. And your Snap Punch is going to do more damage than your Demolish, but you need Demolish for the damage over time. So once you have that first set going, then you can alternate between the 2, and it works out pretty well. Again, Tornado Kick, a great... TK is an amazing move when it comes to just getting out the damage and being able to destroy your opponent just with an insane amount of damage, but then you have no stacks. so you want to use that as little as possible. You can get your stacks back by using a Gnatman. If you are in combat, you will generate stacks. But if you were to move or use an ability of any kind, then an Gnatman will fade, and you will not be able to get those stacks back. And as you can see, while doing that, we got all 4 of our stacks back, but we lost all our buffs. So that is a move that you'll want to use when the boss is doing a big maneuver, moves away from you, like Sephiroth, when Sephiroth falls off the platform and then comes back, where there are no AoEs to dodge. You don't have to worry about moving, and you just want to keep your stacks up. You don't want to lose your stacks. If you are dodging mechanics and you're going to drop your stacks and you're worried about that, you can quickly use 3 quick form shifts to be able to keep your stacks, because it just resets the timer. You can also, if the boss is about to leave, you can 6-sided star, and that brings you back up to full on your stat counter, but it does give you an incredibly long recast on all your abilities, even if you have 4 stacks. So 6-sided star with a 3.84 second recast timer on there definitely adds up. But it does quite a bit of damage, and again, it resets the timer on your stack. So if you're about to drop them, and you're not going to be able to go full combo off, and you don't want to stand there because you can't stand there for an Gnatman, and you can't just use form shift, you can throw out a 6-sided star to get it back. If perfect balance is not on cooldown, you can use it to be able to, if you panic perfect balance and then smash or demolish or smash or snap punch, you can keep your stacks that way too. But perfect balance is on a cooldown, so you're going to want to make sure that you're using it effectively. What I normally use perfect balance for is alternating between these two right here. Just a dragon kick into a boot shine while also using, I'm about to drop my stacks because I wasn't paying attention, into a twin snakes when you need it, and then a demolish as well when you need it. So we haven't talked at all about chakra, we haven't talked about off GCDs, we haven't talked about buffs. There's a lot to monk. There's a lot to monk. Like I said, it's a pretty complicated job. Let's get our stacks back up here, and then we will go ahead and talk about that stuff. So chakra, I've built up 5 over the course of our discussion so far because of the way that chakra works now, but you can burn chakra to use the forbidden chakra, which is a very powerful ability, and you will build those up as you get crits. You can also use brotherhood so that anybody around you, when they use a weapon skill, there's a 30% chance that they will also give you a chakra stack, which is very nice. Chakra you can also get on your own, so if the boss is moving, use your 6-sided star. The boss is moving away, you can do a quick meditation, get a couple stacks. Boss is still not back yet. You're about to drop an Gnatman just to be able to hold on to it. But you have your 5 chakra stacks now. You've got your wonderful grease lightning, and you're ready to go. You have 2 different options with your chakra. You can forbidden chakra, as we talked about, or you can enlightenment, which is basically a Kamehameha wave or like a Shoryuken. It's really cool. It doesn't have any drop off, and 220 damage to every enemy in front of you basically is really good. You also have another option for AoE. It's not chakra based. Those are your only 2 chakra moves. But it's Elixir Field, 200 with no drop off, and that comes back every 30 seconds, so there's no reason not to be doing it in an AoE situation. And then you have your basic AoE combo as well, which goes through Quarrel form, which means you will also get your buff back up for your Grease Lightning. And that would be Arm of the Destroyer, comboing into 4-point Fury, comboing into Rock Breaker. With those, you keep up your Grease Lightning as well, even while doing your AoE combo. You also have a Gap Closer in the form of Shoulder Tackle. This has charges, so you can use it, and be able to just get right back to it. A good use for that is sprinting away from a mechanic. You can even like a Gnatman real quick to halt it if you need to, or use Form Shift, and then running back in with a shoulder charge to be able to get in after an attack, or to be able to dodge an AoE by getting back in time. You also have stances, and these can be very confusing for people. So Fist of Earth is your basic one. It reduces any damage you take by 10%. In solo content, it's great. You want to use it for sure. Keep the enemies off you. In most raids, boss fights, you want to use it situationally. You want to use it when the boss is about to do a big raid wide, or they had a big charged up attack, and you want to be able to get that extra shielding in before that. It will cost you a stack from Fist of Wind, but there are absolutely times, especially in Prague, where you're going to want to switch over to Fist of Earth to be able to take a hit. Fist of Fire is your go-to when you have only 3 stacks or when you have no stacks. Let's burn our stacks here. The Tornado Kick, if you have no stacks at all, you'll want to start with Fist of Fire, because Fist of Fire gives you a 10% damage up. Once you're past level 72, I believe, up until that point, it is a 5% damage up. But you get that extra damage up, which is great. You want that. There's no reason not to have that. More damage is just great. It's free damage. But once you get to 3 stacks, you want to switch to Fist of Wind so that you can get that 4th stack and be able to get even faster. Because again, the faster that you are, the more weapon skills you're able to use, the more damage you're able to do. And since we don't have TP as a resource anymore, there's nothing to stop you from stacking skill speed and pushing your skill speed as high as you can get it to be able to get as much damage out as you can by using those Grease Lightning stacks. That is the basics of what Monk can do, but let's get into some of these other abilities as well. Monk has Riddle of Earth and Riddle of Fire. Riddle of Earth gives you Grant's Reply, or Earth's Reply, Grant's Reply. It grants Earth's Reply if you take damage while it's active. And Earth's Reply is that it reduces damage taken by 10% and nullifies all action requirements. If you get hit, you can pop that Riddle of Earth, reduce some of the damage, and be able to keep going. By that same margin, Riddle of Fire increases your damage dealt by 25%. Used to, you couldn't use these at the same time because it would switch you into that fist form. Now you can, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So now you can use them at the same time if you need to. But it is just a damage buff you get every 90 seconds. There's no reason not to use it. And you can put out quite a bit of damage. If you are really trying to kill that thing, use Riddle of Fire followed by a Tornado Kick. Get that extra damage in on that, and you'll be great. But then, of course, you do lose your stacks. Stacks are always going to be the thing to remember. And if you quickly need to get your stacks back, you can Perfect Balance and just use your Coral moves to be able to get your stacks back. But then, of course, you don't have Perfect Balance to be able to get those crit boot shines in. Keep that in mind. From there, you have, of course, most of the same roll abilities in the form of Bloodbath, Second Wind, True North, Arm's Length, and Leg Sweep and Feint. You also have Brotherhood, as we talked about before. Very good. It increases physical damage dealt by 5% and makes it where everybody around you has a chance to open up chakra as well for you. And as you can see, we got a crit on that, so we got a chakra. Very nice. And then Mantra, which is unique to the monk. Mantra is a buff for healing for you and everybody else around you. So that will buff any healing actions, which is amazing. That is so good. It also stacks now with your Second Wind, your Bloodbath. So very, very good thing to have. Mantra is never a bad thing. And it makes Monk really good in Prague, too, because you're going to have a lot of healing when it comes to raid-wides. So Mantra is a good raid utility move that Monk brings to the table. With all that said, I think we've broken down most of what Monk has to offer. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but we've gone over all the abilities. Monk is a lot of fun. I really like Monk. It's not my favorite. Again, Ninja's my favorite, but I really like what Monk brings to the table. It's a lot of fun to play now, and I think part of that comes because of all the tools so that you don't drop Grease Lightning. Grease Lightning was such an important part of the Monk, and I found myself dropping it all the time in previous expansions. But it's really fun to be able to play around with, especially now with the 4th stack where you get even faster. I've already seen people asking for a 5th stack. I don't know if you could play with a 5th stack. I think you might have to be a machine to be able to do that. But Monk's a lot of fun now, and I'm really happy with where it's at. I do wish 6-sided Star was a little bit easier to use when it comes to the recast. It has a lot of damage, and it's really helpful to keep up your stacks. But there are times where I want to get that extra damage, and I'm like, but in that recast time, I could probably, pull off a second move instead and do just as much. But, again, it is a lifesaver if you don't want to drop stacks. With all that said, though, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Monk has to offer.